Okay, we'll call a meeting to order. Any additional items to the agenda?
Let me see.
Councillor O'Neill.
Yes, government feedback on campaign spending.
Okay, anybody else? No further items? Mr. Burke?
Thank you, Your Worship. First item is the minutes of this committee's meeting of Monday, January 20th. Recommendation to approve.
Move.
Second. Councillor Nicholson, Councillor Asmundson, all in favor, opposed, carried unanimously.
Next item is a presentation. We have a web permits demonstration featuring Gary Deans from our permits area and James Andruso from our information and communications technology area. We have introductory comments by the Manager of Information and Communications Technology.
Through the chair, one of the projects we highlighted for council last year as part of our review was the web permits application. This application went live about a week ago, is available now for users, and we wanted to take this opportunity to give council an update on the application and how it works. So with that, I'll turn it over to James and Gary, who are going to give you a little demonstration.
Thank you, Rick. So just a little bit of history in regards to technology that's been implemented in the permits area. Starting off with staff improvements, we started a remote inspections project way back in 2003 with what we're calling version 1 as a trial project. We've gone through a few iterations of that with improvements, including implementing small handheld units for our building and plumbing inspectors out in the field in 2006, to the latest version, version 3, which is using ruggedized tablets out in the field in 2008 for our building and plumbing inspectors. In 2013, we implemented a few small internal review tools for the plan review clerks in planning and development to review plans electronically. And what we will be doing this year is doing remote inspections version 4, which is a device replacement as well as an upgrade to the software. In terms of our public-facing applications, we implemented an interactive voice response system back in 2005 that allowed contractors and developers to book their inspections online. We did a version 2 of that, or a replacement project, in 2011, which added an additional functionality both internally for staff as well as for the public. And then earlier this year, as Rick mentioned, we implemented the WebPermits inspection request system online. In addition to that, later this year, we'll be looking at an electronic plan submission and review project to expand the use of the electronic plan submission and the review by internal staff. All of this, of course, is built on top of our Amanda permit system, which was first implemented in 1996 and has been improved many times throughout the years. And one of the things that we'll be doing as well is doing an Amanda 6 upgrade later this year as well to bring it up to the latest technology. What we'll be talking about today, of course, is the web permits inspection request system. So what this system is going to do is allow contractors and developers to schedule building and plumbing inspections via the web. It supplements the existing interactive voice response, or IVR system, and it provides greater access to information related to inspections. It allows the contractors to leave comments for the inspector. It allows them to view inspection status, and it allows them to view inspection results. We are one of the first cities in the Lower Mainland to provide this service via the web. And potentially, we see this freeing up 4 to 5 hours of clerical time for other duties, so that they're not answering the phone or responding to voicemails. We tested this with a group of contractors in the fall of 2013, and the feedback was very positive. And they especially liked how they could schedule their inspections while on the building site. So I'll go into a quick demo of the system, and then I'll also show some screenshots of the mobile version, which runs on all mobile devices, including iPhones, Androids, and Blackberries. So the web permits application is available from the city website through various different ways. The first is through the bottom here in our e-services quick launch. It's available, web permits there. It's also available through the city services, and corporate communications has done an excellent job in terms of putting together all of the promotional materials on the website and print materials as well. So there's banners. In addition to that, through the city planning and development area, there's the planning and development resources and building inspections, and it talks down here at the bottom in regards to arranging an inspection. And finally, if somebody was just to come to our website and type in web permits, it's the first item on the list. So they can click on that, brings them to the main web permit site that talks about how the system works, some information in regards to what they need, and Gary, along with corporate communications, did an excellent job of putting together a whole bunch of frequently asked questions in regards to the system as well. To launch the web permits inspections module, just click on the link. All that the contractor needs is their permit number, and there's a graphic that shows where they can actually get their permit number from. They enter their permit number, and it shows them the status of their existing permits. They can see the details of closed or completed permit inspections. Shows the inspector's name, when it was completed, the status, and any notes that the inspector left. They can look at what inspections they have scheduled. So, for example, there's this one here where it's scheduled for the 29th. They can look at the details of that. And they can also go and schedule new inspections. The other thing that I should point out is if they've got an inspection that's scheduled, they can reschedule it as well if they find that they're not going to be ready for it, or cancel it. The schedule an inspection is very straightforward. They can choose from a list of valid inspections. So in this case, for example, an HVAC inspection. They can select the desired date of the inspection. It gives them the next 5 business days out, as long as they're before the 3:30 cutoff in the afternoon. So I have actually the 3rd of February available to me here. I enter in a contact number, and this is required so that we can get a hold of the contractor if there was any reason to, or if we had any questions in regards to the inspection. And then they could put in special instructions as well, and this could be something like beware of dog or AM inspection requested, for example. And then they just click schedule inspection. What this will do is come back with a confirmation. So they get a confirmation code with their inspection, the date that it was scheduled for, their contact number, and their instructions. From here, they can go and schedule another one, or they can return back to the inspections request. Rescheduling is very straightforward as well. They can click on reschedule. It fills in the inspections that they already selected. They can select a different date, put in their contact information, and any special instructions as well. Once the inspections are scheduled, what it does is it actually assigns it to the appropriate building and plumbing inspector, either based on zone that has been assigned, or whether that inspector has done previous work on the permit. And I'm going to pass it over to Gary now to talk about what happens when it gets in the inspector's hands.
Thanks, James. Just for those of you who haven't met me, my name is Gary Deans, and I am the building trades supervisor. And my counterpart on the plumbing side is Bob Kennedy. He supervises building and plumbing inspectors. We've been using this technology for since about 2008. This is our current version of it, the laptops. And what happens once it's all scheduled into the system is in the morning our inspectors download or synchronize their laptops with the computer system here, and it downloads their daily inspections. They then take this equipment out into the field with them, and in the process of doing their inspections, they input the results of the inspection, whether it's pass or fail, any deficiencies for compliance that need to be put in here. Once that's completed, they prepare a report, print it out, and they leave it at the site. And after that, they synchronize remotely with the computer system here at City Hall and upload the information so that it's readily available to Bob and I or anybody that needs to see what's been happening out on site. And that reoccurs every day, every morning. The same process reoccurs for the inspection staff. And that's really it. It's been working quite well for us.
Great, thanks, Gary. As I mentioned, I'll just switch back to my PowerPoint presentation. We have a mobile version as well. I've got some screenshots for you here. So this is available, as I mentioned, on any mobile device, whether it be an iPhone, an Android device, iPad, any other tablets. And it works exactly the same as the full version that I demonstrated, where they enter their permit number on here. It will show them their inspections that are scheduled. They can click on anything they can schedule it. They can click on any of these to see the status of it. This is an example of what happens when they see, it displays the status or the results of the inspection, including the inspector's comments. They can schedule the inspection. Again, clicking on it brings up a calendar within their device. And they get a confirmation page. And that's basically it. Thank you.
Outstanding. Having dealt with a number of handwritten inspection reports and phoning in for inspections and such, this looks incredibly great. Is the inspection report a digital? Do we type that in, or do we manually? Is it handwritten?
Inspectors basically select from a pre-selected list of deficiencies, and then they also type in and they can select the results. It's basically all input through the computer. So.
And then print it out.
And then print it out. Essentially, they would print out a copy of the report, which I have here, a sample of it anyway, if you want to have a look at it.
Okay.
Print it out and leave it at the site. And the report is available as well. We can print it out in the office.
Okay. Are there any considerations related to, I gather that anyone with the permit number has access to the inspection records of that site?
They only have access to what you see here on the screen. They don't have access to the deficiencies.
The deficiencies are, so the contractor or the owner would only have access to the deficiencies on printed copy.
Correct.
And wouldn't be able to access them electronically.
At this point in time, that's correct.
Okay. And there's no consideration of expanding that access, or?
Yeah, that would be a module that we're looking at adding once we implement this, in terms of how it goes out. That is a module that we're going to be looking at adding in the future.
Well, I applaud it. I mean, the 21st century has arrived, and building inspections have been done the same way for so long. I'm really impressed with the steps we've taken. I've got questions from Craig, May, Terry, and Brent.
Great. Yeah, I think it's great. I'm looking forward to sort of seeing this in operation. I do have a couple of questions. One is on the scheduling. If an area of 20 homes are being built in an area and they all request a plumbing permit for its inspection for tomorrow, does the system have a capacity of which they say, sorry, we can't meet it? I mean, is there any kind of a confirmation? Because this looks like you're just going to, you put the request in, but is there any sort of actual scheduling that takes place behind the scenes?
Yes, there is. We have inspection limits set for each day in terms of the maximum number of inspections that can be scheduled for that day. If we've reached that limit, then that day no longer becomes available to select when they're scheduling an inspection.
Okay.
And we do have some information on the FAQs in regards to what happens if I can't pick the day that I want.
So this is sort of like when you go online to book your hotel and it shows you the dates available and you click on it and it says, sorry, not available that day, pick another date. So, so they know that, oops, I'm going to have to pick the day after. The ability to schedule, I know currently our time cutoff is at 3:30, that we don't take scheduling for the next day after 3:30. But if a builder has an inspector comes out at 3 o'clock and by 4 o'clock they decide, oops, there's some little deficiency, it needs to be corrected, they can't phone in after 3:30 to schedule for the next day. I'm wondering, now that this is electronic, is there going to be any provision to allow for schedule backs later in the day? Because the inspector doesn't actually pick it up till the next morning. There's a cutoff, which I presume was time to allow staff time to do the processing. Now that we're electronic, is there ability to tighten up that window, or do we still need to do something behind the scenes before we can hand it over to the inspector in the morning?
Well, we will be looking at extending that deadline as we move more electronic. Currently, there's still a process that the clerks have to do, pulling permits for the inspectors, but we're looking at providing, with these tools in front of you, additional online documents for the inspectors, so that the clerks no longer have to pull those permits, so that we can extend that deadline to later in the day.
So down the road, once we get it up and running, there may be some opportunity, because I think that would be a big benefit to contractors, particularly on callbacks where there's a minor deficiency that they can fix on the scene, but our inspectors obviously can't wait to do it while they do it. I agree. I think the ability to see the deficiencies online would be a key benefit, particularly in a case where you've got a contractor, a general contractor, and he may have a plumbing trade on scene, but he's not on scene. So for him to be able to sort of off on another job to get that update and say, oh, the plumbing inspection was done, but I see I have some deficiencies that I need to deal with my plumbing inspector. So as long as we're just handing out the hard copy, the guy on the scene who may not even be the plumber, he may have done the work and left, in the morning, and it could be another trades or something, or you just, stuck it on the door. So I think one of the beauties of this is that everybody is connected instantly, and I'd like them to be able to have access to the full report, and obviously making sure we have some privacy, security in place. But I think this is great, having gone through a renovation myself, and my contractor was the one who dealt with everything. But I heard the process and how it went, and it went well. But I can see that this is going to allow us to do an even better job than we already do. So thank you.
Hey.
This is from the Queen of Technology. I hope you're ready for these. But my first one had to do with rescheduling, and Craig touched on a couple. But does this deal with occupancy permits as well?
No.
Okay. Then my question, going back to what Craig said, if I need my plumbing inspected before I can start doing some other part of the building, and I try to get in and I can't get in for a week or 10 days, what happens? What happens if all the inspectors are busy for a week or 10 days? Would that be something that might happen? Would that be normal?
No, that was not normal.
Okay, so we're not that far behind. Okay. Can you go back to your page on the FAQs up here?
Sure.
Now, as the Queen of Technology, when I go in to research something, I'm trying to find out a question. If you go back up a bit and keep going back to when you first get on the website. So all websites do this, and it drives me nuts. They give you a little paragraph, and then you keep reading all this stuff, and then it says FAQs. Why don't you put the FAQs closer to the top so I don't have to read all the other bumps before? Because my question might be readily answered in one of the first few questions.
I think the idea is that we want to give people an introduction to what the system does, but it's definitely something that we could consider. Or something that we may do is put a link on here that links them directly to the FAQ, so that they can click on it and it'll take them directly down to it.
Because sometimes they just want to ask something real simple, and they're not going to take the time to read all this crap and get down to the FAQs. Because once they read some of the FAQs, they go, oh, I'm in the wrong spot, I need to be somewhere else. So that's from someone who's very frustrated about finding anything. Thank you.
It's a very manly question, though, because men are often accused of skipping all that instruction stuff because it's boring.
Well, they do.
Terry.
Yes, thanks. So the way I understand this, your permit number is essentially your password to open up your file. And that permit number is all numeric?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so these days, out in the Wide West Wide Web world, passwords to be most secure should be alphanumeric. And so probably not too determined hacker could use, if it's just simply numeric, it's quite a bit more simple to get into that. I don't know what sort of issues can develop if one gets in there.
To be clear, the permit number is published. It's a public document.
It is a public document already.
So it's not really a password. It
ends up being a password now.
You could password. It's a username.
A password.
It's a username. More like a username.
More like a username. So since that's all numeric and not alphanumeric, that causes some sort of issue. In everything I read, and certainly all of my passwords are alphanumeric.
When we first looked at the implementation of this product, we gave a lot of consideration to whether access to this information needed to have a password on it. So provide, for example, a permit number and a password. And we looked at the information that was actually made available via the system, and there is no personal or confidential information that is actually being displayed on this, through the system. So we felt that the risks were very low in regards to what could be done if somebody had that permit number.
So the reason I thought of this was only when we started talking about whether deficiencies were going to be available online. I thought, well, if there's a contractor and he's been hit with a whole bunch of deficiencies, and maybe that should just be between the contractor and the city at that stage, but that might be able to be hacked, and then everybody would see that embarrassing or something like that. So that's what I was thinking. So maybe everything else isn't confidential, but are deficiencies normally a confidential thing?
Deficiencies are generally posted on site and are generally intended for the owner or his agent. So they're left at the site and they're primarily for them. I think what we're looking at is in the next module, if we add this in place, we would be looking in terms of revisiting the security issue and aspects of that.
All right.
And revisiting to see whether something could be implemented for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just keep that in mind.
The other thing that I was going to mention as well is what we may be looking at doing for the inspection report is emailing it directly to the contractor so that it's not actually available on the web. It goes directly to them in an electronic format. Okay?
I like that.
Now, earlier in your presentation, you said that you had a line there that said something about 4 to 5 hours of clerical time will be saved for other duties, for freed up for other duties. That's 4 or 5 hours per what?
My understanding is that's 4 to 5 hours in total per day.
Per day?
Yes.
Per day for the whole department?
Yeah.
So you say, okay, good. That's,
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was per month, per week,
Mhm.
per job site, or something like that. So 45 hours per day for the department dealing with all this. Okay, that's almost a full-time position.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe this should be on our stop doing list. That 4 or 5 hours can maybe have a,
Just on that free time, Jim Von Temple may want to speak to that because it's not going to be idle time that these people will have. They will be doing other pieces of the permit processing.
To speed it up,
In order
then.
to
Yeah.
speed up the overall process.
okay.
It's a win.
Yes, it's a win-win then. Okay.
Oh, we've already got that time spoken for, don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, no, through the chair.
And you may want to argue with the idea that a full-time staff works 4 to 5 hours a day.
No, there's a lot
I
of
said
things.
almost, didn't I?
He said almost.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, almost 4 to 5 hours.
Yeah, there's a lot of duties that the last 2 or 3 years have been very busy in fact, and some of the clerks just aren't getting to some of their regular duties as quickly. So there's things like Councilor Reed brought up, occupancy permits. They tend to go into a pile, and they get to them every week or at the end of every 2 weeks. It needs to be done quicker. There's phoning up people who aren't picking up their permits. We call them every month, but we can call them every day. There's tackling aged permits that for some reason have gone on, someone hasn't called for an inspection, or a contractor has left the site and the homeowner doesn't know and is wondering why he doesn't have an occupancy or no one's going. These often require a phone call, someone to track it down and say, listen, where are you? You need to call for an inspection. Right now, after 6 months, we have a clerk that sends a letter, but these can be done quicker. So there's and issuing permits. So after the plans examiners have finished their plan check, the clerks have usually a pile on their in basket to get to and actually package and create invoices and send out. That can be done quicker.
Excellent. So it
Yeah.
sounds like more efficient, better customer service.
That's
Good.
right.
Thank you very much.
Good, Brent.
The new program, so it's on the web. Are you going to be sending out to our existing contractors and everything information in regards to this new system and to make them aware of it rather than just finding themselves through the city's website?
We've got an information bulletin going out. Corporate Communications is preparing an advertisement in the paper. We also are handing out buck slips that give the information with each new permit. So we have a plan in place to provide the information to our customers.
Very good. The other one is about, is there a time limit to cancel? Or can they cancel in a couple hours of the scheduled appointment?
Currently, the cutoff time is the same for the phone, and it's currently at 3:30. Again, that's something we're going to look at, perhaps expanding to the following morning.
Okay. So there'll be a change. The other one is, my issue's been for a few years is plan review, and been working on this for a couple of years. So I see it's on there for 2014. Do you have a date where you think it would be in place for the automated plan review?
We don't have a specific date. We're aiming for the third trimester of 2014. Right now, we're going through a process of clearly identifying what the requirements are for the system and scoping it out completely, and then we will be issuing an RFP for the selection of such a system.
Good. I've been on this for a couple of years now, and I think it'd be, once again, freeing up staff time, making things more efficient on how we do things, especially for our customers, and getting their plans through more efficiently and not having the backlogs that we wind up when the peaks hit.
Your Worship, if I could on that point, and Councillor Rasmussen is very good about this focused on this. As James said earlier in the presentation, they have brought some elements to that right now that we're using that system to help assist hard copy reviews. It's sort of a half and half. Going to the full electronic plan submission is obviously a very desirable move. It's a big move though, and they come back and they give me updates on what we're saying about that. So they're working through that process. Also be checking with how other municipalities are acting this. I understand these are kind of a little bit leading edge if we get into this. There are some other large size municipalities. City of Victoria was one, and they've had a few hiccups in their implementation. So again, we want to learn from others and make sure we do launch it as smooth and as successful as possible.
Well, and I thank you for that, because it's one of the issues we've heard for a number of years from all builders is the issues of their building permits and delays that happen from time to time in just the volumes that we have to deal with, and making that more efficient for them. So thank you for that.
And back to May.
Just one thing, we brought up occupancy permits. Maybe everyone doesn't realize how important those are. Sometimes at the end of a conveyance, if it's a builder that no one knows, the banks will not issue funds until the occupancy permit. If they're a well-known builder, usually the banks will do it, but there's been some rather fly-by-night who should have flown in another direction, not Coquitlam builder, that the banks do not know, and that their product is known not to be up to par for the bank, and they won't release funds. And it puts lawyers, realtors, homeowners, everyone in a real bind if we're getting close to the end day and no occupancy permits. So they are really, really important. Thanks for doing this.
Any other comments? Well, I didn't hear any criticism, so it looks like you're heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Just get your FAQs up there.
That's right. And we look forward to the budget process that will spit out those 4 hours of savings.
Jim said they're spoken for.
Per day. Per day.
Bet you wish you hadn't come now, huh?
No,
It was Jim.
no, we know those resources will be needed because we're moving forward. So, outstanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only other item remaining on this agenda is another business item, and that concerns campaign spending limits, and was raised by Councillor O'Neill.
Yes, you might recall that last year I raised the subject around council that the Minister of the Ministry of Community, Sport and Cultural Development had asked for local government input on the second phase of local government elections reform. The deadline for that feedback is the end of this week. I took it upon myself to give pretty extensive feedback, shared that with everybody this morning, and just wanted to remind you publicly that if you do want some sort of individual feedback, that can take place anytime this week. And I think there was a sort of general feeling that we wouldn't have a city point of view on this, that it was up to individuals to get involved, and so I got involved, and basically arguing for the status quo campaign spending. There's lots of thoughts, and there were big headlines last week about perhaps major restrictions, and I argued for keeping it the way it is. And so that's gone off to the provincial government now, and I urge everybody to get involved, and members of the public can do that too. So that's it. Little updating report.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Reid on
I
that.
had one, I liked your report, thank you. But it was, and I agree with you, I think it should just stay the way it is. But the one thing that you asked about, the government should examine establishing a real-time campaign donation reporting mechanism. Some of the problems are that campaign donors, and this has happened to me a few times, have issued money in the last week of an election to folks, and you really actually don't get it till after the election. So,
Yeah, that's an issue. That's why, and that's actually technically not part of this review. That's actually.
But I just want to bring that
yeah,
up
I know.
to you because
And that's why it wasn't actually part of my formal report, the two main sections, because really the government is going ahead with some minor changes to donations, more in time for this coming election. No limits on donations or anything, but a little more visibility for them. And so this was just a thought that I had that, yes, it'd be very difficult. That's why I say they should examine this, because I think the whole issue of campaign donations, the concern over it would disappear if people knew in advance who was getting money from whom, rather than 3 months after an election. And that's when everybody, oh, gee, if I'd known he'd gotten $900,000 from one developer, I would have really raised my eyebrows. And
Could
I'm
they
like,
send me their name?
yeah, well, that's happened in Vancouver, wasn't it? About 900,000, yeah.
Yep.
And so, but if they know that as it's happening somehow, and I don't know how they would do that, it'd be worth looking into. And yeah, in the last week, that's a big issue. That would actually, that's just more knowledge that for people have to make up their minds about who to vote for. And I know that some candidates in other jurisdictions and at other levels have made personal commitments to basically use a blog or a website to list the checks that come into them personally for their campaigns as they come in. And that's something that maybe we could look at doing, or some of us are interested in that. But the main focus of this report that's going forward now is about the actual limits to spending in a campaign. There are some, which is two separate issues. Thank you for the comment and the support.
Anybody else? No. Thank you for that.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
O'Neill and Asmundson, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. Carried unanimously.